Good morning. My name is Sivagnanam, and this session is about how to use the Neuroscience Gateway for running computational or data analysis codes on supercomputers. So during this talk, I will introduce the two ways by which you can access the Neuroscience Gateway, mention some guidelines for better use of this resource, and show a demo of how to use the NSG. So the first step to, before you start accessing NSG is to get an account on NSG. And as Amit mentioned, you can do that by filling out the registration form that you can find on our webpage at nsgportal.org. And it's a simple registration form you can fill out and let us know, what kind of research you're doing, what software you would need, what software you're planning to use on the NSG. And once the registration is approved, we will create accounts to access the NSG through both the portal as well as the programmatic access. Just to note that the accounts are separate, meaning that if you get an access to use both the portal and programmatic access, and you're using them both, but if you change the password on one, the change will not be propagated to the other side. So the accounts are maintained separately. So once you have an account to use NSG, there are two ways to access. The first is through the portal, which provides a web browser-based interface that allows researchers to access and use the neuroscience-related software applications that we have already installed on various supercomputers. And majority of our users use the NSG through the web portal. However, there are those who may need to integrate, accessing NSG as part of their workflows. And for that, we provide programmatic access to NSG through the REST services. And depending upon, if you want to get an individual account with us or come in through the community account projects that Amit mentioned, we have two ways of accessing the programmatic access. One is called the direct, where we require individual researchers, or you may be using a software which has already integrated the access to NSG as part of the software, and you're downloading and using that. So you would have to come and get an account with us, and we call that as a direct access. Or you could come in through the web applications of community projects where you don't need an account with us, but the admin of the community project would have an account with us and will just direct the jobs from the web application directly to the NSG on behalf of the community project. So those are the two ways of using the programmatic access. Now, regardless whether you come in through the portal or the programmatic access, I just want to share some general guidelines for using NSG. Though NSG is created such that the purpose is to hide all the complexities associated with using a supercomputer, we do want our researchers, especially if your code or your model is CPU bound, or it is memory bound, and it is a little bit performance sensitive, we would want you to identify the HPC resources which is best suited for your code. And as Amit mentioned, the resources that we provide, they all have different architectures, right? So they have different number of cores per node, the memory is different, and all of this information is available through the resource user guides. For example, there is a Comet user guide expand, and all of this is publicly available, and you can take a look at it to see what is best suited for your code. The second thing is the length of the time for which your job will run, and this is something that we want you to estimate. And this is the time that your code will take to run on a HPC cluster. Now, that we call as wall time. Now, it's better to overestimate this time a bit, because all NSG does is take all the parameters that you specify as a user, and then translate that into a Slurm script to be run on the HPC resource. So we want you to overestimate the time a bit, because we don't want your job to be terminated in case if your job runs a minute over the time that you think the job will run. So the wall time is very important, because otherwise your job may run for 10 hours, and then it may get killed if you have not provided the right time for it. The final point is we would like you to upload your input model as a zip file, and this is the only way NSG accepts your input file. And the reason behind that is when we started NSG, we base this, the input file format on how the model DB has, uploads it, allows their users to upload their input files. If you're not familiar with Model DB, it's a repository of computational neuroscience models associated with publications. And the idea was once you've used NSG and you have a publication, you may disseminate your code through Model DB. And so we follow the same format. So you can have any number of files, subdirectories, or even just a single file. But what we want you to do is to create a single folder or directory and put all those files inside that and subdirectories and compress that top level directory as a zip file and use that as the input file. And this is the probably one of the most commonly asked questions. We always have users who miss the single step. Either they would not create the directory, or the files are distributed. They may have additional files along with the single directory. So please follow this format, and this is the only format that will be accepted for running on NSG. So with that, I'll show a demo of how to use the NSG portal, and I'll be using an example code from ModelDB, and there is no particular reason for choosing this code model. I was just looking for a Python code, one of the latest models that has been deposited in the ModelDB. And I know that later in the day you would have a demo of MATLAB and EEG Lab and Neuron. So I just chose a pure Python code just to show this demo. And you can, if you already have an account and you want to try it out, you can also choose an example code from ModelDB. So with that, I will switch over to our website. This is the nsgportal.org, which is our website. From here, you can access the portal. And if you have an account, you would use the information here to log in. If this is the first time you're using NSG, once you log in, you would find absolutely no folders here. You can create a new folder. And if you create a new folder, it will appear on the left-hand side along, just like how my folders are displayed right now. And with each of the folder, you will have two subfolders. One is called the data, the other is called the task. Now, data is where you will upload your input model. And tasks are, all the processes that are associated with creating and submitting jobs to the supercomputers. So I've already created a folder here for the workshop, and I'm just going to show you the data part here. And I have uploaded that ModelDB zip file that I just mentioned. And uploading data is fairly simple. So if you click on the upload file, and uploading is just browse, select the file from your laptop, and then save it, and the file will get saved under the data. And you can upload how many ever input model files that you want. So once you have uploaded your data file, the next thing to do is to create and submit a job. And for that, you would have to go into the task. And in the task, there are some steps needed. One is you have to select the right input file. You have to select the software that you want to run. And you need to set any necessary parameters. And this could be associated with the software. It could be the parameters that you need to specify for running a job successfully on the HPC resource. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new task just to show you how to do that. And here I have one input file. That's the ModelDB zip file that I have uploaded previously. I'm going to select that one and select the data. And the software that I want to run is the Python. I just want to choose and run the Python. So as you can see, these are the list of software that we have installed on various resources. And some are on Comet, some are on Stampede, which is at Texas. There is one on Expanse that Amit just mentioned in his talk. So I'm going to choose the Python on Comet. And again, while I'm choosing Python, the Python is not just running just pure Python code. Sometimes there are software that is just written using Python, for example, NetBind, BMTK. And you can have access to all of those while you're choosing Python. And we also have some Python libraries that are installed. So once you choose the Python, there are some parameters that are predefined and available for the users to set. The first one is the the maximum hours to run. And this is what I mentioned about regarding the wall time. So how long will this job run? So reading through the ModelDB README file, I know that it does not take very long to run. So I'm going to just choose 30 minutes. And this line here, which says, do you require an RNIB model compilation, is very specific to neuron codes, and which if someone is using NetBind might need that. So we don't need that for this Python code. And if there are multiple Python versions, they'll be listed here. And I'm going to just choose this as is the only available Python version. And what is my main input file name? And looking through the README of that ModelDB file, I know that it is called generate params.py. I don't have any subdirectories and I don't have any command line options, and these are optional, and you may have command line options, and if that is true, that you can enter them here. I'm just going to run on one node and one core for this particular job. But say if you're not sure how many nodes or cores are available, you can just click on that. We have the extra information here, and it tells you that this is going to run on Comet, and the maximum nodes available is 72, and the number of cores on Comet for each node is 24. So with that, I have chosen that. Now I can, by default, all files that are returned back from the Neuroscience gateway will be called as output.tar.gc. For some reason, if you want to change that, you can change that here. I can just say ModelDB test file or ModelDB output file. And I want to save these parameters. And once I've saved, I can just call this is my test run. I can just call it test. And once I'm ready to submit it, I can save and run the task. So what happens now is that once I click on save and run the task, what's happening in the backend is the Neuroscience gateway takes your input files, takes all the parameters that you just selected, including what software you want to run on, packages that up, moves that over to the resource, builds the job submission script, submits it, and waits for the job to complete and emails you when it completes. So at this point of time, you can actually log out, and if you're not, you don't have to wait here to see if your job is completed, because it will email you once your job is done. So once it's done, you can come and retrieve your output files. But for now, I just want to show you how, in case if there's any error or something, where you can look for those errors. And that's under these task messages. The task messages just list all the steps that I just mentioned. So you can see that the job has been staged to Comet, and all the input files are staged, and the job has been submitted to Comet. And this is the job ID on Comet. Now, again, we as NSG have no control over how or when your job will run on the resource, because all these are, these are national supercomputers. Other than NSG, there are many other disciplines that use supercomputers, and your queue wait time is largely dependent on who's running or what code's running. So we have no control over that. But once if your job is completed, you will get a notification. So if you, I'll just check if the job is completed. No, the job hasn't started running here, but I did run a job earlier, and I can show you how that would look. So once your job is completed, you would get the output file. And here, I specified as modeldb.tar.gc. I can simply download it, and the download will have my output file. So other than this, what other features we have is the cloning feature, which means that when you press the clone, what it does is it copies the exact same setup that you had for the previous job, right, including the parameters, and it will clone it and create the same thing, where you can go and maybe if you're running a parameter sweep study, or you just want to change some command line option, you can do that, and you can clone and run multiple jobs. So that's the purpose of having a clone for in the Neuroscience gateway. So this is the as the whole purpose of Neuroscience gateway is to make it easy for researchers to use the supercomputer to run your computational neuroscience codes on the supercomputers. And these are the steps that are involved in using the portal. So So at this point, if there are any questions, please let me know, and or Amit or Cindy can read it out. If not, I'll proceed to showing a demo of how to use the programmatic access.
Shiva, please proceed.
Okay. So other than using the portal, as I mentioned, the other way of using the NSG is through the programmatic access with REST services. And for this purpose, I'm just going to show how an individual user will use it and not the community projects through the umbrella accounts. So for the individual research users, you would have to have an additional registration step where you will obtain a key for your application ID. And the purpose of the programmatic access is to use the NSG through, with the comfort of your own laptop or, desktop. So you have to set some environment variables like in the URL, password, and key. And all of this information is in our user guide. So, I'm just showing you a demo of this, but if you're really interested in using it through the programmatic access, you can look at our user guide. And there are different ways to interact with the REST API. You can use curl commands. There are some PHP, Perl, Python, Java libraries if you want to incorporate that. So there are different ways, but for this demo, I'll just show you using simple curl commands because that's the way the majority of our users use it. So just to show you how the programmatic access will look for maybe submitting the same zip file. So this is just a simple line, and you can, as you can see, you have to specify the username, the password, the key, and the URL. And the tool here is the Python, which is again the same thing that I did using the portal. And the input file will be in a Python example .zip, and I'm running it on the number of nodes 1. And most of the functionalities of the portal is available through the RESTful services, where you can list your submitted job, list the results, you can download results, and everything you can do this programmatically. If you're not familiar how to construct this curl commands, we do have an NSG tool configuration helper where you can put all the information that you want, like the number of nodes, the cores, the wall time, and we will construct the curl command for you, which you can copy, paste, and use it. So I'll just show you that demo of that. So this is our from our main web page. You can access the NSG programmatic interface through the NSGR, and that will open the programmatic access web page. So you log in with your credentials. And once you are logged in, you have an access to the application management. So under the application management is where you will create a new application. And when you create a new application, you just choose, for example, if you're going to be running a neuron code on visual cortex. So you can create some name which is descriptive of that. And your authentication type is direct if you're an individual user using it. And some website and maybe additional contact person who are in the same research as you are. And then once you create it, and key will be created for you. And that's the key that you would use. And I've already registered an application and I have a key, and I'll be using that for this demo. So now if you're looking for the documentation of how to use this, here are some quick start guides, a user guide that you can look at for seeing exactly how to set up the environmental variables, how to submit, how to list, how to poll to see if your job has completed. And if you want to know how to create your curl command, there is this tool configuration helper that I mentioned. And with this, I can just demonstrate and show you how to create the curl commands for the Python job that I just demonstrated through the portal. So I'm going to choose the Python. And for this, I'm going to do the same thing. I want to run for 30 minutes. I'm not running neuron code, and I want to run with the same Python version. And the file name is generate_params.py in my case. And I want to run on one node, one core, and I will select my input file, which is right here. And I just click on the view, and that will tell me how my curl command needs to look like. And it's also formatted for copy and paste, so you can really copy this and use that. So now I have already set up my environmental variables here. I hope you can see the screen. If not, I'll just increase the font a little bit. And now if I want to submit it, I have the same exact curl command here, and I'm just going to submit this, the exact thing that I've copy pasted from there. So if I submit this, what it's going to do is it's going to connect to the NSG server, move my input file, and all the parameters, and exactly do the same thing the portal did. But only thing is I'm just doing it at the comfort of my laptop. So it will take a second because the file size is a little big. So, but once it's transferred over, you'll have the messages like this, giving me an indication of that the job has been queued. There was no issue with submission of this job, and then what date it was submitted, and what is the most important thing is what is the job handle. Now, the job handle is something that you could see in both the portal and as well as in the rest. And this is the only unique way we can identify your job. So in case if you have any issues with your job or something happened, you have to send us this job handle. Otherwise, we would not be able to help you debug the issue. So now you can do exact same things as we did on the portal. You can list, you can see that, once the job is submitted, you can download the results, everything you can do just using the curl services. So I'm going to see, okay, so I am just going to see what is going on with this job. So this URL is the same as, this is our NSG URL. So it's the same thing, and I'm just using the environment variable there. And then I know that the job information from here, so I'm going to copy, paste it, and use the job handle. So what this would do is it just shows me the same information, and I'm just polling it to see at what stage it is at, this job. Then I know that it has been submitted to comment again, and it's probably in the queue waiting to be run. So once this is completed, I can just download the results from here, and I will have it in my laptop. So this is how you can use the curl to submit jobs programmatically to NSG. So as I mentioned, if you have any issues running on NSG, you would have to send us the job handle, which is, it starts with the NGBW-job, and that's a unique identification for, for us to identify your job and help you with it. As Amit mentioned, that, we get time on supercomputers and distribute it for our users. But however, if you, as an individual user or as a group, you want millions of hours and you want to run, still use NSG, but you want to write and get your own time, we do provide assistance for writing proposals for bigger allocation, but you can still use it via NSG to run your jobs. If you have any feature requests or software requests or any just general questions, the email address is nsghelp@sdsc.edu. Please email us and we can help you with your question. As Amit mentioned, if you use NSG resource, please cite us, and the citation information is also there on our website. And you can find this, and you can refer to our this publication. Thank you, and if you have any questions, please let me know.